People have been stacking up Cardano as the price action has been moving steadily up. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about the price action of Cardano ahead of the 𝗕𝗲𝗀 upgrade and what that might mean for the price action of Cardano. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will stay up to date with all of the videos and live streams that we do here at 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗍. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, link is in the description below. Okay guys, let's get a start in it. Cardano paired up with USDT here. On the hourly chart, Binance is the data source. Now as we can see, we had a 5-wave structural drop to the downside. This was basically happening from this high point just up here. I'm just going to mark that up here with this. Okay, this basically being 51.22 cent. We saw this nice sharp 5-wave drop to the downside. Now as I often talk about on the channel, we don't tend to see 5 waves on their own. They're normally a part of a bigger structure. Okay, so there's one other kind of scenario or several different scenarios that can play out based on this 5-wave structure that happens to be right in here. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through what these look like so we can be prepared for which scenario might unfold. And to start with, we have the most common, which will basically be a zigzag pattern. Okay, a zigzag pattern is basically a giant ABC. So it's an A wave down, then the A wave consists of 5 waves. We have 3 waves going up. That will basically consist of any other kind of corrective structures. Could be 335, could be 535, could be 333. Right, it could be a serious different number. Then, of course, we can move down into a C wave, which again would be a 5-wave drop. Essentially, it becomes a 5-3-5, as in we have 5 waves down, 3 waves up, and 5 waves down. Okay, these are one of the most common ways to kind of think about a 5-wave drop. So, based on this kind of move to the upside here, we can see that we had 3 waves up here, we had 3 waves coming down, and it looks like we might be getting 5 waves to the upside here, making this entire correction a 3-wave 3-3-5 corrective structure. This basically means I can just go ahead and map this as an A, B, and C structure, although we may still have a little bit more room to the upside before we start to pull to the downside. One thing about this structure, this ABC, this zigzag structure, is that our move upwards here should not cross the origin of our 5-wave structure down. Okay, so we should not therefore cross any higher than 51.22 cent before we start to see the next 5 waves down. Okay, so essentially what we'll be looking for, let's hypothetically say we've already topped out here for Cardano, we'll be looking at some kind of 5-wave structure like this, and it should marry up as a 1-to-1 ratio with our A wave. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll measure the distance from the bottom end down here all the way to the top here. We're going to then transpose this over to this wick that's just over here on our C wave high, and then we can see that we will come down to approximately 44.73 cent based on the current high. Okay, so it depends on whether we push any higher, but this would basically tell us that that's where our structure should end. And if I go ahead and just tidy this up just a fraction more to make it a little bit easier to see, and we just wrap it up as an ABC, it's A down, B up, C down, and we look like that. Okay, so if I zoom on out, that's one structure that can potentially play out here for Cardano. Okay, and the other structures, actually before we move on to those, it's probably worth just saying about the momentum. It does look like we have momentum on our hourly chart to actually go up a little bit higher, and if that is the case, then obviously our target down this low end is going to change under this particular structure. Okay, as we come up into the higher time frames, however, we're overbought on the 4-hourly. That does tell us that we're likely to see some downward price pressure. The same thing here on our 8-hour chart, we're progressing to the upside. So we could see this stochastic RSI over the weekend come up into this overbought area and, maybe push a little bit higher on the price. Again, we shouldn't really cross under this structure any higher than 51.22 cent. So keeping a close eye on the 8-hour stochastic. The daily shows us that we have plenty of room to the downside, and so does the weekly. Okay, so under this structure here, we could potentially be seeing some volatile movements just with either trading sideways around here or just looking for that extra little push to the upside. As I said, it could be a 3-3-5 structure, meaning that we end up in this little 4th wave and we just push up a little bit more. And if that is the case, then I would say that we are looking to kind of end up somewhere around 50.8 or maybe ease high as a double top on 51.22. Okay, so keep a close eye on those numbers. Okay, so that's the first structure I wanted to talk about, right? Basically, it's 5 down, 3 up, 5 down, A, B, C, zigzag. The second structure is that basically this 5-wave structure to the downside over here, and this is the more bullish scenario, that this 5-wave structure just on this side is actually the end of a structure, okay? And basically that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 like that. And basically what's going on here is we have 3 down on this side, and we have 3 up on this side, This is actually quite an extreme one right in here, okay? And it's an expanding flat correction, okay? This expanding flat correction basically allows us to have like a megaphone shape pattern to this, and where we expand on down to these lows, okay? It's an extreme version of it. We would not normally, under a 335 structure like this that expands, see this fifth wave come down this low, okay? We would not normally see that. So it's an unusual one, but it is still technically possible because we don't have that many parameters for expanding flats to say, you know, where that kind of 5-wave structure can go. It has to be ending with a 5-wave structure, which we've got. So this is a scenario that could play out. So I'll leave it there as a possible scenario. Although I think it's a bit of an extreme one, and one that we might not actually be able to kind of, you know, say that's definitely what is going on. But essentially it would be an A, B, and C scenario like that, okay? But it would be incredibly unusual for that to be the case. And if that is the case, it means that this entire structure move upwards here is actually better than we think, because actually it could be that actually we're not having that 5-wave drop to the downside, right? So, okay, it's a case for the bulls, essentially. Now, one of the key things here, what I am measuring is to see whether or not we're getting a 5-wave structure to the upside. Okay, now we don't have a 5-3-5-3-5 kind of thing going on here, and mainly because we can only see 3 waves inside this first little area here. We have 3 waves down, and there's kind of a loose 5 waves going on within this structure this side. But essentially, if we were to come up higher than 51.07, then we could argue that it does fall within the parameters of a 5-wave structure, even though the sub-wave counting is a little bit off at this point, and we could potentially be looking at a move to the upside. Okay, again, I would not expect this to happen, but I do think it's worth mentioning. We're keeping a close eye on those things. Essentially, what my expectations are personally is that this is a zigzag pattern at best to the downside. It can, of course, trend to the downside and all that kind of stuff. And I'll show you what that might look like as well, just so that we're aware that if we were to come down too much lower, as in we were to come down lower than the 44.73 cents, then, you know, our kind of trigger point for our next move comes in down here at 41.50. That will basically turn this entire thing into a into an impulsive structure to the downside. Okay, so not a zigzag. So basically 1 down, 2 up, 3 down, 4 up, 5 down, like that. Okay, and basically the 5-wave structure is just basically on a higher time frame, and you can kind of see how that kind of maps out. So we've got 2 clear targets for us. These are both bearish targets, mind, and basically one at 44.73, which is your kind of, you know, happy kind of range where zigzag pattern, and we can continue the progression to the upside if we wanted to, or 41.50, we're trending down and we're going to be dropping down significantly lower than maybe you were expecting. Okay, so there's interesting kind of things there. Now, in case of the bulls, the only way I can kind of make that work is a really loose expanding flat correction, and that again, that would take us up slightly higher than 51.22 cent. Although I do think that is highly unlikely in my personal opinion. Okay, so these 5-wave structures, they do appear from time to time in very strange and odd locations, and so we cannot rule them out completely as just standalone 5-wave structures, but they don't normally tend to be that way. They're normally nested inside a different structure altogether, and you don't just tend to find 5 waves just randomly placed somewhere. Okay, they're usually a part of a bigger corrective structure or an impulsive structure of some kind. So in the case of Cardano here, we were actually looking pretty reasonable for thinking that we're likely to pull to the downside. The issues that we have really are coming from the 1-hour and the 8-hour stochastic RSIs. I'm not that fussed about the daily or the weekly. They're pretty much bearish, and the same with the 4-hourly. So really, it's just the 8-hour. If that will actually progress up into the overbought area without doing any more price appreciation, then I think we're going to basically start seeing some kind of negative price pressure over the different timeframes, and we're going to start to come on down towards 44.73. But we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff is going to kind of lead the general direction, and we're not really decoupling from anything else that's going on in the space. So keeping a close eye on it, but for the most part, that's kind of what my expectations are. Guys, I'm going to leave this video right there. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Don't forget to join us down in Discord. Link is in the description down below. It's free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. Guys, until the next one, have a fantastic day.